My guest is a writer and illustrator based in New York. She moved to the U.S. from Tehran in 1977. She's the author and creative director of the new book, Urban Iran, a depiction of everyday life in Iran, mainly through an abundance of artwork found in the streets of Iran's cities. Charlotte Noruzi, welcome to the Break Room.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
This is a beautiful book. It's an interesting collection. It's edited in a way that is like a. It's sort of eclectic. This book. What is what was the intention of the book and the collection?
It was really to feature artists and authors living in and photographers living in Iran and outside, and giving the world a sense of what's going on artistically in Tehran today.
Well, it's interesting because, like, outside of what has been going on there lately, I think a lot of Americans do not realize that Iran is a very cosmopolitan, it's a very progressive, it's a very modern population of people, and that it's sort of and that it seems to me that, from what I understand, is that all this operates not so much in secrecy, but in sort of a weird contention with the religious political structure, but it still functions, and from the book you can see that. You find that to be true?
Absolutely, and not only is it contemporary, but it's also very deeply rooted in its culture.
Right.
So it's got that really wonderful sort of dichotomy going on for it.
Well, that was one of the interesting things that I found in the book right away, is that you had a woman in here, I believe, reflecting as an Iranian American on what her past was, because she had been living here, I guess, since she was a child. So she was looking at children's books that were made in Iran. Is that where some of these illustrations come from?
Yeah, actually, that was my story.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That was my story.
I'm looking for the pictures right now because they were so cool.
Yeah, my father had gotten us children's books from Iran, and I had them since I was a kid. And that's what kind of got that whole thing started with talking about publishing, what's publishing like in Iran right now, and how censorship really controls it, and how people still, like you said, create and are creative even within that sort of.
What is it like in Iran now? What kind of what are the stipulations to expressing yourself?
It's really quite random, as people have been telling me. As far as censorship, you never really know what's going to be censored,
or for what reason.
Or for what reason. It sort of changes day to day, but there's a lot of sort of, nudity, obviously,
right,
and certain words, and people holding hands, things like that.
Just weird stuff.
And weird stuff, and so that it really brings down the quality of writing, and sort of, I talk about that, how things start to become very, very sort of flat and lose their flavor and richness. So that's sort of a result of that.
But one thing I notice about a lot of the art in here is that it is unique.
It is very unique.
Like, there's a tone to it that I, as an American, have never seen before, and even as an American who's looked at art from other places, it has definitely its own sort of symbology and also its own feel.
Yeah.
And where does that come from? Is that what part of Iranian history do you see most of it being drawn from?
I would say it comes from the mythology and from the storytelling, for sure, and also just the calligraphy is huge. There's so much right, symbolism
like
in that.
Arabic manuscripts and stuff?
And the Farsi, actually.
Oh, Farsi, okay.
Yeah. So that, I think, it's all sort of rooted in that, plus the Western influence. So you get this wonderful mix that's happening right now.
You see a lot of that in the graffiti, because there's a lot of photographs of urban graffiti in Tehran, I guess, yes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, huge.
Oh, here's that one. Where's this from?
This is from one of my children's books.
Look at this.
This is one of my favorite children's books. And it's the story of Rostam. So it's from the Shahnameh, which is one of the, that's basically like the mythological Bible of
Iran?
Of Iran, yeah.
And what happens in that story?
Oh gosh, I don't.
You just like the pictures. It reminds you of when you were a kid.
Lots of fighting and heroes, and the heroes.
Now let's talk about some of the specific chapters, like, because I didn't know. Obviously, I didn't know. Well, tell me about the chapter that's just 206.
206 was an essay written by Salar Abdo, which talks about this car think it's a Citroën. I'm pretty sure it's a Citroën. But he talks about how
everyone had sort of one or two cars there. Is that what the deal was?
Right. But this car really was a symbol, I guess, of your status.
Okay.
And so, and it talks about one guy who had saved up all his money to get one.
Yeah.
This is part of the story.
Yeah.
And then lost it all because of, I don't know if it was a traffic thing, some kind of ticket or an accident, whatever, and he lost it all, and he ends up riding along in this like rickety old like motorcycle.
Right.
So there's a lot of. He talks about sort of the internal world of the Iranians and the outside world as well. So there's some wonderful things that he touches on.
And what is Slab City? Or am I saying it right?
Yeah, Slab City is about a district called Ektaban.
Is that like, would it be the equivalent of projects? Or is it just...
I would say so.
Right.
I would say so.
And that's where you get a lot of the graffiti art?
This is probably just dispersed throughout Tehran, the graffiti. But I thought this was really kind of an interesting thing. That one of the photographers, Sina Araki, talks about. I think you passed it over here.
Oh, look at that! Look how pretty it is.
With the mountains, the Alborz Mountains behind.
We're doing it old school here. It's like Mr. Rogers. And this is Tehran. And there's mountains in the back, and people live in all these buildings. Some of them are very angry right now. Now this was I didn't know about this, about beards, the roots of rebellion.
Right. So
there's a beard issue.
There's a beard issue, like if you're growing one that's your, I don't know if it's pro-revolution or regime or whatever.
But nonetheless, it's gotten that the censorship is at that level that you could be in trouble for your facial hair.
Right.
And depending on how long it is. And this is now who would have known that Iran has a metal scene?
Oh yeah, huge metal.
Where there's discontent, there is metal music.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah. And like are there several bands? I mean, do they not get stifled? Is the government okay with metal?
Now I think there's a lot of shows that get canceled. That you have to get a permit in order to perform.
To headbang?
And yeah.
You need a permit for headbanging?
And you think you're on, and then the day, and then hours before they're like, no, sorry, can't perform. That kind of thing happens. So I think that's where the frustration really builds. Is
Sure.
that people want to express themselves, and
they can't.
And they can't.
And the stuff that does get out, like some of these posters, I guess that it forces your creativity to be sort of non-confrontational. But nonetheless, even with that, there's still
they're still hidden in there. There's those little symbols.
You got to sort of code it almost.
Exactly.
Do you have family there still?
Some, yeah. Most are here.
Oh, okay. Have you heard anything from any of them?
I have not.
Okay.
It's lots of trouble trying to communicate, trying to get through. So no.
Which would be another problem with censorship.
I'm hoping they all stayed home. So.
Well, this is a beautiful book. It's definitely pretty, and it's definitely a unique thing. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing it. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.